and welcome to another episode of Desi Diaries.
Yeah, and this week we're going to be talking about dating as the eldest brown child in the household. And the reason I want to talk about this, right, is because a couple of weeks ago, I went to this family friend's 40th birthday party, and I was responsible for getting the cake, but the cake was the pickup time was around 6, 7, right? So I was like, well, there's no point in me going to pick it up and then, having to go to the party. I'd rather just go to the party, but it starts earlier, and then go pick up the cake. So I was like, okay. I went with one of our family friends who, we call aunties because out of respect, but they're not actually blood related. So I went with this auntie to collect the cake, and she, I don't know, the topic came up about guys, and she's like, oh, I've told my daughter, who's the same age as my sister, they're 15 at the moment. They're like, I've told my daughter, you don't get married until you're 25. It doesn't matter who you're dating, it doesn't matter how you're feeling, your brains aren't fully developed until you're 25.
25 is still really young, in my opinion.
No, but I think that's a minimum.
She was
don't get married before that. Don't rush into it,
Okay,
and
that's
she was
understandable, yes.
Yeah, and then she was like, okay, well, I don't want people to get, because she had a love marriage. Oh. And she was like, I don't want anyone to rush into that decision.
Yeah.
Because you don't know fully what's happening. It's okay if you like someone, you can go out, date them and everything.
Yeah, but marriage is different.
Yeah, marriage is different. And I was like, it's quite refreshing to hear that, because there's that stereotype of aunties being like, oh, don't date anyone before you're married and everything. And I just thought, that's such a refreshing perspective. And then I thought, if I were to date someone and I was to then break up with them before I turn 25, I don't know if she would have the same outlook and be like, well, you know what, it's okay, you decide not to marry him in the end. Because I feel there's it's all good hearing that she the society would be okay with it,
but it's not.
But I don't think practically thinking about it,
it's not the same.
Yeah, and I don't think that would actually be taken on board very well, But yeah, so I just want to know what you think about that, because I'm very open with my parents. If I'm in a relationship, I would tell them,
It's very different with me, to say the least.
I think it's mainly because I don't date someone if I don't see a future with them. Yeah. So I'm well, I'm not gonna. Obviously, if I'm in the talking stage, I won't tell them. Yeah. But if I'm okay, you know what, I'm actually liking this guy, then I would tell my parents, because I don't. One thing I don't like is sneaking out the house and telling a lie. I hate lying, and I'm also the worst liar. I remember the first time I ever had a drink was with you. And I'm a terrible liar. So I cannot lie to my parents about where I'm going or who I'm dating. And every time I do it and something bad happens to me, I'm like, that is because I lied to them. So yeah, I
can see that. Yeah, I understand that. But I don't know, it's always been different with me. With I guess it's because I also live with a joint family. So it's not only me and my parents, it's my uncle, auntie, their kids, and my grandparents. My uncle is extremely protective over stuff like that. He hates it. Just dating, or even me or my cousin, my girl cousin, hanging out with any guy, he hates it. So,
but even I guess your cousin's younger than you, but for you, you're at that age now where I guess you're 22, but
I still can't say that I'm gonna go hang out with my guy friends in the house.
But what if it's dating wise?
It would be an even bigger no. With at least him and my aunt, uncle, grandparents.
But do you have to tell him?
What do you mean? If I'm going out?
If it's your aunt your uncle who has a problem, what if you just told your parents?
Well, my parents didn't approve the last time, so
okay.
My last relationship, my parents did not like at all. But I don't know if there's other reasons besides just me dating being the reason for it, because my parents are very traditional, I will say, in the sense of they don't want me dating anyone who's not Indian.
Yeah. I think that's the case with most parents who have moved from overseas and weren't raised here. I mean, as in the sense that
they weren't born and raised here. Kind of thing.
Yeah. My parents, again, they moved from India. They didn't they weren't born here. They weren't very young when they were raised, if that makes sense. My parents were already married. Like, I was 2 years old when my dad moved here.
See, that's the difference. Like, I can definitely tell that because my mum and dad are the oldest on, like, in their families, which makes me the oldest child on both sides. And then I have my uncle, my mum's, like, youngest sibling. She's a sibling. She has 4, basically, of them. There's 4 of them on my mum's side. My youngest, my uncle, he came to India when he was about 15, 16. And he has a very different mindset than my parents, because him and my aunt were the first to know about my relationship, my previous relationship.
So it wasn't even your parents?
No.
And how was their take on it?
They were supportive. They said, like, so my aunt was more supportive than my uncle, because my aunt was born and raised here.
Oh, right, okay.
My uncle said it's, like, fine and stuff like that. He was more worried about my parents finding out he was the first one to know rather than anything else, because he was like, you're responsible enough, I trust you, like, it's okay, kind of thing. But he was just kind of there like, don't tell your mum that I knew before she did, if she does find out.
And how did you then bring it to your parents?
I just told them, because we were talking about my brother's past relationship.
Right.
Because he didn't tell my parents. And then my brother passed away, so they found out through that. Yeah. So my parents were talking about it and stuff like that, and were telling me, like, oh, you can tell us.
At that point you were in a relationship?
Yeah. Okay. And I told them a little bit afterwards, all of that happened, and they did not have a good reaction.
No?
No.
Even, like, considering what happened with your brother, I thought...
They had a really bad reaction to it. Before even asking what his name was, they asked me if he's white.
Like, specifically white? Or, like, just whether he was any race?
Like, they asked, is he Indian? I said no.
Okay.
And then after that, it kind of just turned into them warning me about all this stuff that could happen. Because he's not the same race as me.
Yeah, it makes you think, right? Like, just because... Like, what makes Indian the only race that a man is going to stick to you? Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm pretty sure there are divorces happening. I mean, I know of people who are Indian and have been divorced.
Oh, yeah, same.
Like, I've heard of people who are Indian and have dated and then they've, like, broken up. Like, what makes it that another race is, I guess, not ideal to date?
I think it's just the whole stereotypical thing of keeping it, like, pure in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get that. I tend to go for... I'm not gonna lie, I am appealed to multiple races. Like, multiple men in multiple races are appealing. But if I were to date someone, if I were to marry someone, I would date an Indian, mainly because I like my culture. I like the religion. I like... Bollywood movies, for example, and I'm sure, you can share that with someone else who's from a different culture, but I think it's different to when you're sitting next to someone and they completely understand what's going on in a Bollywood movie. You don't have to sit there and explain it to them that, oh, by the way, did you get that joke? Or like, you're the only one laughing and they don't understand, or like, the India versus Pakistan match is on and they're not as hyped, Like, I just think it works out, and I think that's why my preference is to go for Indian guys, but for someone who doesn't have that preference or it's not that big of a deal, why is it?
Honestly, I don't know. I've never... I don't know. I've only ever dated one person, I will say.
Yeah.
And after... I've just never really thought about that, I guess. Like, I don't care what the race they are. Like, honestly.
I think, yeah, definitely. Like, you care less about all of that side. I think for you, it's more about the individual. Yeah. Whilst for me, it's like the individual plus all of these additional things,
Like, I was researching into a bunch of, like, I guess because all of my friends are part of the LGBT community. At least, like, outside of the ones you, like...
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they all, like... Before my first boyfriend, all of my friends and me assumed that I was a romantic, I think is the word.
Okay, I've never heard of that term. You're going to have to explain.
I think, I'm going to quickly Google it because I don't want to be wrong about it. Because there's a specific word for someone who doesn't want a romantic relationship, basically. And I just didn't care that much. Like, yeah.
So, like, platonic? Like
platonic, yeah.
Okay.
So that's another one.
But platonic is like when you have when you have a platonic relationship with someone.
It's purely
like friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not
like,
romantic.
Yeah.
Like you and your best friend would have a platonic relationship.
Yeah, it was
if they were a guy.
Yeah.
You know?
And then later on, like I would have crushes and stuff, but besides that, nothing really else. And then later on, I got into a relationship, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm demisexual, I think is the word.
What's that?
Where it's like before being physically attracted to someone, like to be physically attracted to someone, you have to be mentally attracted to them.
Right.
So before anything, personality and their mentality and stuff like that is what I look at first, and then I look at the physicality in a way. Or like, or I would, even if I'm not physically attracted to them, I can still be mentally attracted to them and want to go out with them and stuff like that.
Right.
So
hopefully, you know, that's what society says that we should be like.
Yeah.
You know, we should be liking them by their personality and their mentality before.
I've had so many conversations with different people though, because I have friends that are like, but I wouldn't want to go out with someone who doesn't fit my standard of looks and stuff like that. Like, I would rather have someone like, yes, they would like someone with a good personality, but they prefer looks over personality. But it's just preference, I guess, for what different people want. I
think looks are definitely a factor. Like, you do have to find someone attractive to date them.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be the only factor.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But I think it does hold some... Like, it depends on how... Like, there's a scale of 1 to 10. You know? I think everyone's scale on how important looks are varies.
Yeah, everyone... It's just different.
But I do think that there is some sort of input, you know? But yeah, so it just got me thinking about relationships as the oldest girl, because the aunt that I was speaking with, you know, her oldest child is a girl, you know, and obviously she's had a love marriage, and most of the other, most of the other people in this group, the older aunts and uncles, they're all like arranged marriages, or like through, actually one of them got married through a dating app, which is a bit more forward. Well, not dating app, it's a website, so it was a bit more modern. My parents are the oldest in that group, you know, they got married like arranged marriage, the typical.
I think everyone in my family is arranged, except for one uncle who had a love marriage, got a divorce, and then has another love marriage.
I don't know if this is like too personal, but was his first marriage to an Indian?
She was Muslim, I think. So, as horrible as it is, my family had a bias against her. Yeah. Unfortunately. But the new lady he's now married to is European, I'm quite sure.
Right.
So there's still parts of the family that aren't happy.
Do you think this kind of... So when you told your parents about your relationship, do you think his kind of relationship with his first marriage and now his second marriage, do you think that kind of played into their mentality, or do you think it's just like a standard? Cause
I think it did, because that uncle was brought up as an example of love marriage problems and stuff like that. Like, when I talk to my parents recently about anything like that, they're like, it's fine as long as it's Indian.
Right.
As long as he's Indian, I should say. So, yeah.
What are your thoughts on Indian men?
Like, this might just be the type of guys I've met in my life.
Right.
But most of them... Okay. In their defense, I have only gone to one school for, like, senior school-wise.
Okay.
And it was a private school.
Okay.
So you can already see the type of guys that are going there, right?
There, right?
Yeah. So he was very freshy, is the only way I can fucking describe it.
Right.
So he was very try-hard, trying to fit in with all the white kids and the, like, black kids and stuff like that. He clearly was not fitting in well, because they just messed with him all the time and took the piss of him.
Yeah.
But that's, like, most of the guys in my school who are Indian were like that. So that's the image I have in my mind most of the time.
Of Indian guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
but that's because of my school, though.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know what we need to do now? We need to take you up to Harrow. And we just need to, like, roam the streets. You know, maybe go to, like, Westfield. Or not, there's no Westfield there, but, like...
When I was on Tinder, because I was on Tinder for a while.
I think everyone's had that phase, don't worry.
Yeah. The Indian guys that I saw on there were good looking. And like, I was like, alright, they don't seem like a freshie for once.
I also would not trust Indian
no.
guys on Tinder. I
would trust any guys on Tinder.
I mean, you're better off going to Dilmil. I've heard they're a lot nicer.
Tinder's just a horrible place in general. Like,
oh no, but it gives you that instant satisfaction that you're good.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So you have to go there for like validation.
I was telling my friend, I was like, dating apps, especially Tinder and Bumble and stuff like that, is like, it boosts your confidence.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, as soon as there's like a really good looking guy and you like swipe right on them and they give you like, oh yeah, they're right as well. I'm like, yes.
So yeah.
By the way, we don't have in Tinder anymore. This was like a university thing. You know, everyone downloads it when you're at uni. Also, they had like a uni only Tinder, by the way. So like you could only date students from
your university.
So which was not yours, just like any universities.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So you like, I love it when I had Tinder and I came home because like you get all of it. The UCL, Imperial, you know, all of those like top end London university boys.
Fancy uni.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that was like a phase that I think everyone has gone through. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not biased against it. It's just most of the guys I've met so far have been really annoying. It's the simplest way to put it. I
mean, you see, there's a thing, right? Because like, there's a lot of like brown guys in London, and I think that the main dating scene I get from it is like, either they're taken, either they don't like brown girls.
Yeah, that's very common.
You know, which is so ironic. You know, brown guys don't like brown girls, and it's like, okay, well, so where are we meant to find our Indian boys? You know, without exactly. Or they just like have something that's not appealing about them.
I will say another thing. I've like the ones that I have met outside of school and stuff, and were like, oh, they're actually quite cool. They are very close-minded sometimes. Which is a problem considering I'm not like normal to say normal in quotation marks. Right. That's like normal isn't even the right word to use, but like I'm untraditional, very untraditional to say the least. Like,
I think there's also that mentality that like Indian boys are like, you know, I say they're like freshies, right? Like they also have that same perception. Like, I went to a school in you know, South London, which is kind of known to be the worst school in South London. Like, my school was literally built on a landfill site.
Nice.
And like the school was like either half South Asian and then like half black and white. You know, so the majority of the school's population was South Asian. And these were people who, like me, had their parents move here from India and then they were raised here. Like, I was born in India, but a lot of these kids were born here. And you could just see how the kids that had moved from India used to get targeted. You know, like me, I used to get targeted. I used to be called a freshie, fresh off the boat. You know,
I don't like the word freshie, but I didn't have another way to describe those people, by the way.
The thing is, there is like a stereotype around it, right? But now, you know, with like TikTok and like Instagram Reels and like this whole like culture shift, you know, being a freshie is cool. Wearing your Bollywood outfit is cool. You know, watching Bollywood movies is cool. Listening to Bollywood music. You know, like TikTok videos where they're like, oh, can you guess the top TikTok songs? I know every single one of them. There is not one song that I don't know. And I'm like, is this the best you can do? Because I can think of some old songs that none of you will know. You know, so like, yeah, my parents listen to like a radio in the car. Like, this is a typical brown thing that most you know, immigrant parents do. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And I don't think that it's that or such a toxic environment, you know. And yeah, I feel like we don't give credit to like the kids who are kind of raised here, you know, because it's tough. I was literally watching a video today about like kids who have like a third culture, and these are kids who are born in one country but were raised in a different, and they don't fit to either cultures. They're like a hybrid in between. And it's so difficult, you know, because like, and I don't know if I'd have a preference when dating for either one or the other. I do think it would be more difficult to date someone who was born here, just because they won't understand. Well, I think it's all on the upbringing as well, because I don't think if they were raised here and their parents, you know, didn't watch Bollywood movies with them all the time, or they didn't have, you know, the cricket on all the time, then, you know, maybe their upbringing will be quite different, and they won't have the same likings as me. But also, this is one thing I wanted to ask: is it important to like the same things as your boyfriend?
I don't think so.
Like, I'm a not mad. I watch cricket now. Like the other day, I think that T20 World Cup was on.
Yeah.
And it was India versus someone. And I literally, my dad was at work, and I came home and I watched it, and like, and I just had it on. Like, usually I watch it with my dad, and my dad came home and was like, "Oh, you're watching the World Cup?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." You know, and he's like, "Oh, you're watching it by yourself?" Like, because he was so surprised that I was actually watching it, and I was like, "Yeah, because it's an interesting match, you know." And it's just got to that point now where I'm actually like looking at the scoreboard, like I'm a little bit more involved than just, oh, my dad's got it on, so I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And
I don't think you need to have everything in common, or like, as long as your partner is willing to sit down and like do the things you like, it's like a give and take, I guess. Like,
right.
As long as you're willing to do the stuff they like and they're willing to do the stuff you're like, it's fine.
So it's not like straight off the bat, you know, we both like this, we both like this. I also think that's quite boring, you know.
Yeah, having
if
the same
you both
personality.
like the same things, then it's like, what's the point? I can't introduce you to this.
I have a friend from my university. She's really girly,
right?
And he's like a gamer, like very similar,
right?
Like that's why I'm friends with him before I was friends with her. Kind of thing happened. She decided she's gonna watch Game of Thrones because he liked Game of Thrones, even though they're starting from the end of the show, kind of thing. This was when it was still like coming out. It's because it was when it was still releasing.
Oh right.
So she started like towards the end of it, and decided to watch it with him. So she would just be there asking questions constantly, and he loved it because it was like, oh, she's actually interested and stuff.
Yeah.
And he went and then watched Love Island with her.
Oh god.
When that was being released, he hated every second of it, but he was like, because she enjoys it, I will be with her and I will watch it with her because she wants to watch it. So it's kind of like that, I guess. Like, as long as you're willing to put effort into what they like and they're willing to put effort into what you like, it's fine.
I do have to say, Love Island draws the line for me. I cannot deal with that show. It's so bad.
But that's the thing, he was willing to put
you know, like, and I admire his courage because it's awful.
He was there making fun of the show for the entire time, but he was still trying, at least, is the thing, and she was really happy with the fact that he was like he was there with her, was the
I think there's what, like season 8? Like 8 seasons of that show? I don't know.
They were watching it when it was coming out.
Yeah, but there's like so many seasons, and I think in my entire life I have watched a total of 1.5 episodes, and that is because they had it on, so it wasn't even like I had a choice.
More than me.
It was like, I know, but if I could get away with it, Neha, I would. Like, I could take that 1.5 episodes back of my life, I would.
I've only seen like the really memey clips about it.
No, I think I watched it because like it was on and I was at someone's house and they were like, well, we were all eating, and obviously if it's their house, we can't be like, well, you know, change it. Yeah, exactly. And they were watching it, and I was just sitting there, and I literally asked, I was like, why are you watching this show? This is so off topic, but like, I was just like,
trash TV.
Yeah, but and then they were like, yeah, it's so trashy, and it's so bad. Yeah. But you just have to watch it, and I was like,
no,
I can't do it because these people are awful, and they're playing around with their emotions, and also like. You know, every time I'm on there, I'm like, if I was to go on that show, I don't think it will ever happen, but like, what would my parents think of me? Like, and also, how are your parents okay with you on that show?
But that show is like in the same like realm of like, oh, X on the Beach, Big Brother. I guess it's worse than Big Brother.
I think, I don't know, right? Because there are like there have been some Indian people on there.
I still think it's just all trash, though.
Oh yeah, 100% trash. But I always think about what their parents say.
Yeah.
You know?
I would... I don't know. I guess there's nothing else they can really do at that point. Because most of them are like wannabe actors, wannabe actresses.
They already have... Like, I think they only go on that show to get exposure.
Yeah. It's all people who want to be in front of a camera kind of being like, this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, they're not on there for love. If they end up loving someone in the end, then it's like, you know, all good. Kudos to them.
Let me get half naked and find a fake love. Basically,
there are going to be so many people like if this video kicks off, there are going to be so many people who are going to hate you for saying
I don't care.
It's fake.
It's fake in the sense of like most of the relationships, I guarantee you, that come out of that show do not last.
Some of them do. I had the same. The reason I'm saying this is because I used to raise the same arguments, and then like whoever I watched it would be like, oh, but like these two ended up together and they've had kids and now everything, and I'm like, yeah, but like
think of how many people have gone on that show.
Yeah.
And think of how many successful relationships have happened from that show.
I feel like there has to be some sort of contract where like if the top 3 winners have to be in a relationship for like at least a couple of months. If not, they've got to pay a fine or something. I swear there has to be some sort of
It's the same thing as like on X Factor and like Britain's Got Talent and stuff like that. The winners of the show never gain that much popularity. Like 90% of the time, they don't gain popularity. It's always the second or third person who gains more popularity.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. One Direction they were third, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, something like that. They didn't win.
Yeah, Little Mix, I don't even know if they won or not.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
I didn't watch that season.
I think also James Arthur was on
James Arthur, yeah, he rocketed with 1 or 2 of his songs, and then I haven't heard of him. I haven't seen him on the charts in years.
Oh, he's had some pretty good songs in the past couple of years.
Oh.
Or maybe because I listen to Capital like every day.
I have a peek at Billboard every now and then, and that's about it.
No, James Harden had a couple of songs like I think a couple of years ago, but I don't know if it's anything new. Well, I haven't heard of anything new.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We're getting off track.
Yeah. So dating, I don't know. I feel like my parents again had the same thing in terms of they have to be Indian. Also, don't think they would approve of anyone who was on Love Island.
I think most parents would.
But I don't think being Indian is enough. You know? I think if my boyfriend were to be Indian, my parents would also have some sort of expectations from him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In terms of like, okay, well, you're Indian, but you also have to like be religious, speak the language and all of that. And it's like, well, because you've got boys who are raised here and they are Indian by ethnicity, but there is nothing culturally Indian about them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the same and if that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that will be enough for my parents.
I don't think it will be enough for my parents.
No?
Definitely no. Like, I live in a joint family, first of all, so if they can't speak Gujarati, then good luck, basically, kind of thing. Like,
right.
Because my aunt does speak English,
right.
But it's not, like, 100% fluent. She can speak it, converse easily and stuff like that, but it's not fluent. Same with my dad, same with my uncle.
Really? I would always think that your parents and like your family members had really good English.
They do speak really good English.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time I have to help them out.
Interesting. I thought they were really, really good.
It's like they have enough to like
have a conversation.
Have this conversation, run businesses and stuff like that, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But whenever my dad needs to like get in contact with someone or like needs to do something or like signs a contract and stuff like that, he gets me to read everything over beforehand because I understand all of that stuff more than he does. Right. Or like even if we're watching something, I have to kind of explain some stuff. So like with grandparents, like and because again joint family, it will be impossible kind of thing.
So it's like
again, grandma and grandpa can speak enough English to get by.
I also think that's like having grandparents speak English is really good, but I also feel like that shouldn't be a necessity. Like my sister can't speak,
but she can understand.
She can understand it, yes, and she will try to speak good, like little sentences here and there. But to ask her to have a conversation in Gujarati, that's probably impossible.
It's the same with my youngest cousin, but he's like 8. But I don't think he'll ever learn Gujarati. Like,
I feel like if by the age of 10 they're not speaking Gujarati, they're not gonna do it.
I don't think he will. Like, I don't think he will. Radhika, like my older cousin, she can speak it, decides not to.
I don't understand those kids. I just feel like, why would you not speak your own language?
Like she will say it. She will speak in Gujarati if like no one understands her. That's when she'll kind of say it in Gujarati.
I do feel like that age group, that is the problem with them. They know how to speak it, but to look cool, you don't.
I think it's just instincts for her, because you go to school all day, you're speaking English all day. Yeah. And then you come home and have to speak Gujarati. I remember I used to have a difficult time. I still have a difficult time. Yeah. Like, even though I can't read or write Gujarati, but I can speak it relatively well, I feel like.
Yeah. No, you can have a conversation in Gujarati, which is good, you know, like...
But my friends always notice after, so at least when I was in school or at uni and stuff, because in uni dorms and stuff, it would just be always English.
Yes.
And then I would go home for a month and then come back. Everyone would be like, your English has somehow gotten worse in a month.
Yes. Oh, I completely had that. I had the same issue.
And it's the same when I come back home after speaking English for so long. Yeah. It's like, your Gujarati has gotten so much worse.
Yeah. No, I completely get that, you know. Because obviously you live at home until you're the age of 18, you know, and you're speaking Gujarati at home, you go outside and English
all the time.
Yeah, and then you go away to uni for 3 years, you know, 4 years if you're doing a placement, and then all of a sudden you don't speak Gujarati to anyone unless you're like calling your parents all the time, which, you know, I didn't call my parents every week. I called them, you know, a couple of times when I needed food. It's really bad, but you know, didn't call them all the time, so you stop speaking Gujarati, and then you go home for Christmas and your Gujarati is worse. Like I was looking, I was like, I cannot speak Gujarati properly, and I was born in India. I can, you know, read Gujarati. Writing is a bit of a, you know, problem, but like I can read it, I can speak it, and
it happens with all the languages. Like all of any friend that I have that's bilingual has that problem where it's like trying to switch from one language to another, even like during the day. If it's like, oh, at work I speak this language, but then at home I speak this one. They were the same as me, where it's like they find it difficult to swap between languages sometimes. Yeah.
No, I think for me, I'm okay like switching. So if I'm like speaking a sentence, I can like just switch to Gujarati midway. And my friends find it so weird because I remember I was on the phone to my friend once, and I was on the phone to my dad once, and I was at a friend's house. I was saying a sentence, and then like midway I started saying something in English, and he was like, "How do you do that? Like, how do your brain comprehend?"
I can do that when I'm speaking to my family and don't know how to explain it in Gujarati. I can switch to English quite easily. My friends have noticed that I have an accent though when I'm speaking to my family in English.
Right.
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
But they point it out every time whenever I get a phone call and stuff like that. When I pick up and it's my family, even when I say hello, they're like, you have a different accent when you say hello in English to when you're saying hello to your family in Gujarati kind of thing.
Your Gujarati accent comes through.
Yeah, when I'm speaking in English though.
Yeah.
So I think it's just difference.
Yeah, I don't think I've had that problem. I don't think anyone's actually told me this, so I don't know. I might do the same thing.
My friends love to point it out.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I should do that next time around, and you can tell me if that happens. But yeah, so your parents obviously, and so do mine, think that if the guy, like the boyfriend, needs to speak Gujarati. Yeah. But what about you? Do you personally think that this is like, for me? Yes, because I need to, like, for me, Gujarati is a safe language. I come home, I don't like speaking in English because I'm like, I speak English is a work language for me. It's like, that's how I think about it, right? English is when I go outside, I have to make transactions, I've got to speak to people, you know. Obviously I can speak English pretty well, you know, but when I come home, Gujarati is like my relaxation language. That's when I come home, I wind down, and if I come home and my boyfriend's not speaking to me in Gujarati, then I'm sorry, I cannot do that.
I don't think I care, because I want to, like, with languages, at least for me, I'm already trying to learn other languages.
Right.
And I want to learn so many languages. And I've heard that it's easier to, when raising a kid, you want to raise them bilingually.
Yeah.
The best way to do it is have one parent talking one language and the other parent talking another language.
Right.
So that's what comes to my head when I think of bilingual and stuff like that.
You know what, now you should date a French guy. You can have your kid be trilingual. English, French. You know, I don't even know if you can speak Spanish in the same, because French and Spanish, they're nothing alike. But like some words, you know.
Well, the thing is,
like
I want to learn
and uno, like, you know.
I want to learn Korean. I want to learn Japanese, and then I want to learn Mandarin, and then Cantonese.
Yeah, there's like increasing difficulty.
Yeah, it's basically what I want to do. Yeah. I'm in the process of learning Korean, and then once I've gotten relatively good at that, I want to try and move on to Japanese,
right,
but still practice Korean at the same time in a way. So it's like learning languages in my head, like having different languages and stuff like that isn't a problem. Mainly because I love stuff from other languages as well. Like, I'm constantly watching like K-dramas, anime. Like I've been in, like, there's a Chinese drama, animation drama that I found online that I fucking love as well. So it's like, languages isn't a big deal to me, I guess.
Also, it's like pretty cool learning Korean, because imagine watching K-dramas and not having to read the subtitles all the time.
Yeah, I love it, honestly.
Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was watching Sell Your Haunted House on Netflix. It's so good. I've like finished it and I'm like, I wish there was a second season. Oh no, like a next season. I think there's already like 4. But yeah, I was watching it and I was like, because it's not dubbed.
Yeah.
You know,
subtitled.
and it's subtitled, it's subbed, and obviously it's a haunted house program, so you kind of want to pay attention to the little details on the screen. And you know, I'm a fast reader, I can read the subtitles whilst looking at the screen, but if it's something really quick,
yeah,
then you're gonna miss it, you know.
There's a difference between having to read subtitles and just understanding.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. And also sometimes like the subtitles don't even match properly.
Yeah, you can get mistranslations and stuff like that. But going back to relationships and stuff, I don't think it's a big deal if they don't.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
That's my reaction to most stuff. Like,
yeah, you don't care.
I don't care. Like, as long as they're nice, as long as like I'm happy with them and they're happy with me, I don't care.
Right. What if they were really happy to begin, like you were really happy together, because obviously you got that honeymoon phase, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, you know, everything's great and we're like best friends and, you know, we love each other. And then, you know, it doesn't work out. And like your parents knew about them and then they're not Indian, and then what do you tell your parents? You're like, I mean, that happened in your situation. Yeah. How did you tell them, and what were their reactions? Were they like, oh, I told you so? Or were they like, well...
They were definitely very, I told you so. But it was more, actually, because I didn't tell them the premise of why my past relationship ended. They didn't have a chance to say, I told you so, I guess.
Right. They didn't question?
No. Because they didn't want me to talk about them anyway. Like, my past relationship anyway.
So they just didn't... It sounds like they don't really care.
Yeah, they never did.
Oh no.
It was one of those things where when I told them, they said, they're not allowed to come over, ever. But I wasn't fussed about that anyway, because they live so far away. But they were like, if they do come to London, you're not allowed to be anywhere near where we live with him, in case someone we know sees him with you. And they had like all of these things where it's like, you can't do this, you can't do that, and stuff like that, and we don't want you talking about him at home, we don't want you talking about him with us at all, we don't want to hear about him, we don't want to know anything about him. So that's how it was. And then one day it was about me wanting to travel up to my university to meet some friends, and my family were like, you can't go, basically, like you can't go, you don't get to go. And then my dad asked, is it because of him? And I just said, no, I don't talk to him anymore. And that was the end of that.
So they kind of just found out because
they assumed that I was going to meet him when I wasn't,
when you weren't, and because you said you don't talk to him, they were like, okay, well, it's ended.
And that was that.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, like, oh, you know, in case someone sees you. Because it brings me back to, like, very nicely to the start of this conversation where, you know, I had the conversation with my family friend who I call aunt, you know, and she was like, oh, you know, it's okay if you're, like, in a relationship with someone and then it doesn't work out, you know. And I just think, you know, if I were to be seen with a guy somewhere, you know, down the road or, like... You know, it just anywhere in the town, or I don't know, wherever, you know, what would they think? You know, would they be like, oh, you know, she's dating someone? Like, would they be judgy, being like, oh, have you seen the guy that she's dating? Or would they be, you know, like, would they tell my parents, you know, oh, she's dating someone? Because, as I said before, you know, I tell my parents everything. Yeah. Before anyone else can tell my parents, I would have told them. So, you know, it doesn't really matter to me if someone were to see me out with a friend, because, again, I can't lie to my parents. Yeah. But, yeah, like, I think my parents know all about my guy friends. You know, if I'm, like, meeting a guy friend, they'll know.
Yeah.
And
my parents know about that. It's the rest of the family I live with don't.
Yeah.
Like, I went to... my friend's university recently. He's a guy, and it was only me and him for the weekend because everyone else cancelled. And like my parents was like, it's fine if you tell us like that you're going to meet a guy, basically your friend. But if you're gonna talk about it with everyone else, tell them that it's a group of girls.
Right.
Basically.
Oh no, same. Like if I were to have a boyfriend and if I were to invite him to like a family event or anything.
Oh, this wasn't a family event. They were just talking about like auntie, uncle, grandparents.
Yeah. No, even then, like if I were to go somewhere.
Yeah, with them. To say you're going with a group.
Yeah. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to with a friend or a uni friend or a work friend or you know, or like if there was like an event that I was hosting and I were to, you know, introduce someone, then I would say, okay, this is like my friend, or this is like a friend from uni or whatever, you know, and that would be the way I would, because like I feel like until it gets to the point that it's like, okay, we're getting married, we're getting engaged, you know, no one apart from my parents need to know.
Yeah, understandable.
For me, at least.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same. Yeah, but this is like just visiting a friend. My family also like, it's a guy, don't tell anyone that you're friends with him, kind of thing. Like I think the only reason my family are fine with the guy friends I have is because they know most of my friends are gay.
I know, well, that's to be a criteria. Maybe if you were to like someone and you're going out on a date, just tell them that they're gay to begin with, and they'll be like, oh no, he was questioning, and then it turns out he's not. You know,
like my closest friend, he's gay. I've known him since year 8-ish, year 9, and at first my parents were really hesitant about me going to see him and like visiting his house and stuff like that, and then at one point I was just like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, he has a boyfriend, and my parents were kind of just there like, oh,
go ahead, go meet them.
Yeah, she's like, oh, it's a safe guy friend that you have, which is terrible in one way, but at the same time it's kind of like, thank God that all of my friends, my parents kind of just assume they're gay, and it's fine.
It's also really, I guess, in terms of like getting married and everything, it's so bad for your parents to assume that you're not gonna have any friends, like guy friends, until you find someone that you want to marry. Like, if that's what
my family are fine with it now, but before they weren't. Like, before I went to uni, they weren't happy with it at all. Yeah, in a way. But some of my family can still get a bit iffy about it, but most of them are fine with it now because I'm old enough. I'm like 22. Yeah, like, honestly, I can make my own decisions now.
Yeah, kind of thing. And also like, how do you, like, if you are to spend the rest of your life with, you know, a man, if that's what you're into, then you need to know how men think. You know, like, it's not the same as women. Like, we're very different. I
can't really rely on my friends for that stuff. Though.
Exactly. They are very weird creatures. Like, the way they think, everything is black and white to them, and it's odd. Like, it's fascinating. Yeah, and I don't think like the whole idea, like my parents have always said this, well, my mum has always said this to me, focus on your career, focus on, before it was focus on your GCSEs, then it was focus on your A-levels, focus on your degree, now it's, you know, focus on your career. Yeah. And I'm like, if I'm always focusing on these things, when am I going to focus on my love life? Because at the end of the day, you expect me to get married in this decade, so I need to know them.
It's terrible. Stuff like that is kind of like always focusing on something else besides your personal life in a way. Yeah,
and I feel like just because they were raised in that society to not,
it's also
think about it, you know, and just spend the rest, like, you know, meet someone
who your family recommended,
and then a year later get married to them.
Yeah, because my parents, I'm 22. My mum is like, from next year we can start looking for a guy for you. Yeah, and I have a grandpa. On my dad's side, my parents always say like, oh, he's found a good doctor boy for you, and stuff like that, and in my head I'm just thinking, okay, he's either older than me or still in uni. I know. So
I mean, if he's older than you, he's probably like 2 years older than you. Yeah, you know, he's a junior doctor, he's probably not earning a lot. Yeah. And also working crazy hours.
My mind just kind of goes like, okay, if it's my uncle who's found him, my uncle is extremely traditional. My grandpa is extremely traditional, very like yes or no type of person. Wasn't happy with the degree I did. Wasn't happy with my uni choices. and stuff like that. Like, I was going to move to Manchester for a good job that I found. He was the first person that said no, kind of thing. And I'm just thinking, like, okay, if it's someone he recommends, they're not going to be happy with me. Because I'm working as a games programmer, a video games programmer. 90% of my company is men. I will probably be earning more than him, at least, like, when I first meet them.
Yeah. Unless he's a consultant, which is probably 30,
yeah,
you know.
I doubt they're going to be that. It's like, I probably am going to move up in my career path quicker than they will.
Yeah, 100%.
Kind of thing.
Oh, no, you don't need to rub it in. Stop. I get it. It's tough. Tough out here for med students. Stop it.
It is difficult for med students, though.
Like, I'm not even a med student, but, like...
Yeah, it's just, those thoughts kind of flood my head, being like, it's gonna end badly, in a way.
I mean, that's if they're not accepting.
Which I feel like will be the case with the type of family members picking the person. Because it's just, they're based on their mindset, in a way. This is the perfect person, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings me, like, my cousin, like, my dad's brother's daughter, so a very close cousin, you know. She has recently found someone that she wants to marry, and it's like a big talk in our household at the moment because my dad's father is no longer with us, and neither is my dad's brother, so my dad's like the only man of the household, you know. So it's a very big talk because, like, we're probably arranging the wedding, we're doing all of this stuff, you know, and you know, she's when we told my cousin to start looking for someone, she was around, you know, 22, 23. Yeah. Mainly, not because, like, they're like, oh, you know, you need to get married now. Mainly, but because she didn't have a career path. Yeah. She didn't have anything that she wanted to do with her life at that point. So we, you know, from what we understood of her, we were like, well, you should get married because... Yeah, it will help stabilise you and stuff like that. Yeah, and I think that's what her goal was as well, but she just didn't want to say it. Yeah. You know, and, you know, for like 3-4 years, we've just been trying to talk to her about getting married. And she goes, and now she's found someone. And it's like everyone from her little checkbox. You know, she's like, he has to be good looking, he has to be older than me, he has to have a good income, he has to be the only son of the family. By the way, he's not the only son of the family, so that bit didn't get ticked off. But, you know, he has to live away from his parents, he has to be living abroad. That's one thing I want to by the way. Joint family, oh god no, that's one thing I don't want to go into. But, yeah, and I'm just like, you know, the list is like a whole episode of Indian matchmaking, you know, my cousin could go on there. But, and she found it. She found someone that fit the criteria. And I just think, will that make her happy? You know, if you find someone that fits the criteria, because I had a criteria. I have a criteria. You know, I want a guy who speaks Gujarati. I want a guy who watches Bollywood movies with me. What if I find someone who doesn't fit the criteria? Is that a... You know, I wanted this criteria based on what my parents have told me and also based on what I want in my household when I have a family. I feel like as long as you're happy with what you end up with, it's fine though. Like, it doesn't have to tick all the boxes. It might not tick any. Yeah. But as long as the person you're with is, like, good for you and you're good for them, it's fine. Yeah. So, I guess, you know, that's also your parents kind of need to understand that. And at that point, your parents in general have to kind of be like, okay, they're happy, we should be happy for that. Yeah. I agree, and that is what I will end this episode on. You know, if there's anything you'd like to add, but for me, I think, you know, as long as you're happy, it shouldn't matter what anyone else has to input. Also, it's none of, like, apart from my parents, none of anyone else's business. So, like, you know, family, friends, or anything like that don't really care what they think. You know, the people that need to know. If they need to know, you know, if I have anything to share, I will share at my own convenience. I think at this point for me, it's become my friends will find out first. 100%. And then, in a brown girl's life, the friends always know first. Yeah. But then it's anyone. God knows if my parents will ever find out about anything. It's still up in the air about that. No, all the crushes, like, you know, friends knew everything about my crushes before my parents. Friends always know. My parents never knew about any of my crushes. They assumed that I had a crush in high school. But I don't even know. I don't think I liked him. But then when they told me that, oh, you do have a crush on him, then the idea of, oh, maybe do I like him? And then it just tumbleweeded. It was horrible because I don't even think I liked him. Oh, God. But yeah, so my parents, like, obviously because I'm not in a joint family, so I think I'm a lot closer to them.
Yeah, that's another factor of everything as well, yeah.
So, end of the story. Dating as a brown guy? Oh, no, the brown girl is tough. But it shouldn't be a big deal if you're happy.
Yeah, as long as you're happy, they're happy. That's all that matters. So,
and yeah, we hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for watching and listening. And we'll be back with the next episode at some point.
Yeah, soon. I was going to say, hopefully don't say next week.
No. We're not doing... No, it won't be weekly uploads, but soon, hopefully.
Soon, yeah.
Alright.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.